As Congress considers the big, beautiful budget bill, this week, local food banks are urging lawmakers to reject cuts to Medicaid and SNAP benefits. 1 in 10 Coloradans receive SNAP benefits in 2024, and nearly 1.2 million people rely on Medicaid for access to essential health care. So in today's Justice Gap, I'm joined by Mandy Nuku, Executive Director of Feeding Colorado, who's going to join us to talk about the need for these benefits and the safeguards. And just this week, you wrote just this beautifully concise, I think, letter to lawmakers to kind of hear your plea. And I just want our viewers to hear this from you, from your perspective. Can you talk about what these potential cuts would mean to, our neighbors? These are our neighbors.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you for having me. And for the public's knowledge, Feeding Colorado is the state association that represents the 5 Feeding America food banks, alongside our approximately 1,200 hunger relief partners. Together, we serve every county in the state and approximately 1.3 million Coloradans each year. We are big advocates for the SNAP programs, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It is the most effective anti-hunger program. The current, as you mentioned in your opening, 1 in 10 Coloradans receive SNAP, and approximately 1.2 million Coloradans rely on Medicaid for their health care. So cuts to these programs are devastating to the families that we serve. SNAP is the most effective program. For every 1 meal we provide in the Charitable Food Network, SNAP can provide 9. So it's incredibly efficient and powerful program for our neighbors. The proposed cuts right now are so devastating because they would, for the very first time, create some structural changes to the program. So that would really shift the burden of funding those actual SNAP benefits to state governments. So in a state like Colorado, where we have already come off a very challenging budget deficit this last legislative session, that would mean cuts to benefits and dropping families from SNAPs, because that cost could be approximately $325 million to Colorado. Currently, the federal benefits are funded fully by the federal government, and the state government does a 50-50 cost split for the administrative piece. So adding that additional burden would make impossible choices that the state of Colorado and many other states just don't have that revenue or that luxury.
Yep, and everywhere you hear from Mayor Mike Johnson today, it's budget cuts, programs being cut. It's Boulder. It just goes on and on. So I'm curious from your perspective with food banks who are already stretched. Then you're seeing some of the greatest need we've seen in a decade. What would these cuts mean? Can you guys even survive and provide the amount of service that these folks need?
Yeah, it is an incredible privilege to do this work and see the hard work of food bank staff and volunteers and all of our community partners and organizations like 9 News that support the work we do day in and day out. But no, we cannot continue to make up that gap of federal nutrition programs. So food banks are already stretched thin, and the ability to continue to meet that demand is just not possible. And we know that families are going to have to make impossible choices between food and additional cuts to Medicaid. That's choices between food and medical prescriptions and medical care. And those are just impossible choices for families that work hard every day to thrive.
Yeah, and those are decisions no one should have to make.
Right.
And when you think about, those are the foundations: health, food. Those are the foundations for, a lot of our friends and neighbors in our communities to build better lives. So overall, I guess if you could, put a plea out to lawmakers, those who weren't able to read your beautiful letter, what would you say?
Yeah, I would just say that we fully support the goal of being efficient and using government funds well, and providing support to the most vulnerable in our communities. And SNAP does just that. It does what it is intended to do. It provides people supplemental benefits to help them not make impossible choices, that they can pay their rent, that they can pay their car payment, they can go to the doctor, do all of these things that are part of our everyday lives. And more we see that we are, our food banks and pantries, the charitable food system, we are part of people's ongoing strategy for self-sufficiency and stability. Even in addition to those who already have SNAP benefits, that when federal nutrition benefits don't keep up with inflation, it is impossible for our neighbors to meet the demands and the cost of living.
Yep. And it truly affects us all, you know?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for the work that you continue to do with Feeding Colorado, and keep us posted, you know, as you continue to do the great work, and we'll keep this conversation going and figure out what's going to happen, you know, the legislation and what these cuts could potentially mean. We appreciate Mandy for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.